When you are 5 years old, very few things tend to stay in your memory. But almost 30 years later, I still find myself waking up in the middle of the night, my throat dry and my skin drenched in sweat, as I see those two young girls at the window, dressed almost entirely in white, their eyes sunken, pleading with me to help them. "Save us," they whisper, over and over again. 30 years ago, someone in our extended family was getting married, is what I remember my mother telling me.
It is a big house, lots of hallways and rooms. So don't get lost, okay?
Yes, Mama, but my 5-year-old heart leapt with joy. There wasn't anything more that I loved than to go from room to room. Look at the paintings there. Sit in the chairs and pretend the room was mine. Pretend that the house was mine. I do not remember anything about the ceremony. It was a very big house. My mother was not joking. But only one wing of the house was taken for the wedding. It was easy enough to slip away and get lost. But I wasn't really getting lost. It was just one house, and even at that age, I had an instinctive sense of direction. So that is what I did. I slipped away. There were rumors that this house originally belonged to a local business magnate. His wife left one day and never returned. He wasted away in this very house, blinded by grief and driven to the very brink of insanity. His son later put the house up for auction, but it never got sold and remained in the market. Now it was used for the occasional wedding. But those are things I would have only known if I paid attention to what the grown-ups were saying. And that is something I was never good at. To me, it was just an old house with corridors to run into and new rooms to discover. Rooms with paintings. That was all that mattered. I took 2 left turns and suddenly found that the ceremonial sounds had melted away. The wedding festivities were a million miles away. The first room I entered was a shock to my senses. It was completely bare, devoid of any furniture, and more importantly, to my 5-year-old self, there was not a single painting up on the wall. I guess all rooms were not the same. As I turned around, a little girl my own age was standing at the door. She must have had very light footsteps because I had never heard her coming at all. She did not speak but made a pointing gesture with her fingers, as if to say, "Follow me." I figured she wanted to explore the rooms and hallways too, and fell 2 steps behind her. She seemed familiar with the house as well. After another minute of walking, she moved wordlessly to another room, and to my untold joy, there was in fact a painting here. It seemed to be the little girl herself. She pointed at it as if to say, "That's me." We walked past 2 more hallways, but she didn't enter another room again. This was a completely different part of the building, and the air was rather stale. I was starting to wonder why my new friend wasn't speaking. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she was too shy. Finally, she and I came to a door that appeared to be locked, but was in fact just closed. She pushed it open and walked in, and I followed her. The room was bare except for one painting hanging up on the wall, which showed a woman in her mid-30s. There were also 2 other girls at the window, dressed entirely in white. The 3 of them could only have been sisters. One of the girls by the window finally spoke, and her voice was an icy whisper.
"Help us, please. Our father locked us in this room and went away. Save us."
My head started to spin, and I wasn't sure if it was the stale air or the strangeness of the situation that was finally getting to me. To keep my balance, my hand touched the painting out of reflex. And in an instant, the room felt very cold indeed.
Hello, girls. Who do we have here?
The woman from the painting was suddenly right next to me, and she too was dressed entirely in white. Her voice was raspy, as if it had been sliced by a knife. The first girl by the window spoke again.
"We have been trapped by this window for 20 years. Save us."
All 4 looked at each other before they started laughing. Quietly at first, before it turned maniacal. And it was then that I finally found my eyes closing. When my eyes opened, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming. I was in a hallway and could hear the faint screams of a woman. The screams got louder as she came into view, kicking and screaming as she was dragged by her hair. From a closet somewhere close by, there was the sobbing of young girls. Then, a slash of a knife, the sound of blood being spilled. Eventually, silence. A slight tap on my shoulder, and I could see the 4 women, tears streaking down their faces, 15 years later. As I was about to take the bus to university, a letter lay at my doorstep. My blood turned cold as I read it. I know what you saw, all those years ago, in that house. If you tell a soul, you will pay, just like those girls did.